Shoghi Effendi, the guardian of the Baha'i Faith. The life and work of Shoghi Effendi, from the Baha'i.org website. For 36 years, from 1921 until his passing in 1957, Shoghi Effendi immersed himself completely in the work he had been appointed to shoulder as guardian of the Baha'i Faith. His guiding hand directed the evolution and growth of the Baha'i community throughout the world at a critical stage in its development. Early life. Related to both the Bab and Baha'u'llah, Shoghi Effendi was born in Akka while his grandfather Abdu'l-Baha was still a prisoner. From his earliest years, a staunchness of faith, coupled with a deep devotion to his grandfather, motivated Shoghi Effendi's every action. He wished to master the English language so that he could serve as a secretary and translator for Abdu'l-Baha. And so, in the spring of 1920, he left for Oxford University, where he further developed his impressive command of English. When Abdu'l-Baha passed away in November of 1921, Shoghi Effendi was devastated. In a state of profound grief, he learned that Abdu'l-Baha, in his will and testament, had appointed him the guardian of the Baha'i Faith. Despite his personal distress, Shoghi Effendi vigorously assumed his daunting responsibilities. He set out to execute the provisions of what he identified as 3 charters of the Baha'i Faith: Baha'u'llah's Tablet of Carmel, establishing the mandate for the development of the Baha'i World Center in the Holy Land; the Will and Testament of Abdu'l-Baha, outlining the framework for the evolution of the Baha'i administration; and Abdu'l-Baha's Tablets of the Divine Plan, providing the guidelines for the global expansion of the Baha'i community. With the passing of Abdu'l-Baha, the Baha'i Faith entered a new stage in its growth. What Shoghi Effendi described as its apostolic era, or heroic age, had passed, and its formative age had begun. His own position as guardian involved a function and style of leadership quite different from that of Abdu'l-Baha. In 1937, Shoghi Effendi married Mary Maxwell from Montreal, Canada, who became known to Baha'is by the title Amatul Baha Rahia Kanum. Years later, in a message to the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of Canada, the guardian described her as my helpmate, my shield, and my tireless collaborator in the arduous tasks I shoulder. Building the Baha'i administration. The development of Baha'u'llah's administrative order was a major focus of Shoghi Effendi's attention. As the Baha'i institutions evolved, they would mobilize the community's human and material resources, providing the necessary instruments for the implementation of the divine plan. First, a structure of elected local and national Baha'i institutions was required to administer the affairs of the growing community. Shoghi Effendi guided these budding institutions to carry out a wide range of essential activities, such as promoting the teachings, publishing literature, and organizing community life, all the while learning how to practice the method of consultative decision-making prescribed by Baha'u'llah. In 1937, 16 years after the passing of Abdu'l-Baha, the administrative capacity in a number of countries had developed sufficiently that Shoghi Effendi could begin implementing plans to diffuse the Baha'i teachings further afield and establish communities throughout the entire planet in fulfillment of the objectives laid out in the Tablets of the Divine Plan. This is a picture of one of the original tablets of the Divine Plan. These tablets were sent to the believers in North America twice, First, in 1916, they were sent by postcard in Persian and Arabic with English translation, this one addressed to Joseph Hannen, a prominent early believer. This was during World War I, and the postcards bear the crescent and star seal of the Ottoman censor. Not all of the postcards reached their destination. To spearhead and support this work, the Guardian began appointing the Hands of the Cause of God, a corps of outstanding Baha'is on every continent, whom he later designated as the chief stewards of Baha'u'llah's embryonic world commonwealth. The function of this body of high-ranking believers was to lead initiatives in promoting the Baha'i teachings, encourage learning, assist and educate the assemblies in their duties, and provide moral leadership and encouragement. In 1951, Shoghi Effendi appointed the members of an international Baha'i Council, which he described as the forerunner to the Universal House of Justice. In 1954, a global network of auxiliary board members to assist the Hands of the Cause was also formed. As the number of Baha'is and their capacity to act increased, Shoghi Effendi systematically set about putting Abdu'l-Baha's plan, as set out in the tablets of the Divine Plan, into effect, giving a series of specific plans to a number of national Baha'i communities to spread the faith further afield. By 1953, the Baha'is were able to embark upon what he described as a fate-laden, soul-stirring, decade-long, world-embracing spiritual crusade. Through this campaign, the Baha'is throughout the world achieved astonishing results. This map is Shoghi Effendi's map of the progress of the 10-year crusade, showing the years from 1953 until 1958. This map was created by Shoghi Effendi, as well as the map used for the background in this presentation. Shoghi Effendi's college major was cartography, and he was a skilled map maker. When Abdu'l-Baha had passed away, some 35 countries were already open to the Baha'i faith, with a few having rudimentary organization at the national level. By the time of Shoghi Effendi's passing in 1957, Baha'is resided in 219 new sovereign states, dependencies, and major islands. By 1963, there were 56 nationally elected governing councils known as National Spiritual Assemblies, as well as more than 4,500 local spiritual assemblies and Baha'is in more than 15,000 localities. The Baha'i World Center. During his ministry, Shoghi Effendi began to construct in the Holy Land the heart and nerve center of a world-embracing faith, overcoming what often seemed to be insurmountable material obstacles. Among the many tasks he shouldered in this regard, one was particularly weighty: to safeguard the shrine of Baha'u'llah and the buildings and land adjoining it, securing the entirety of the property and beautifying its environs was a task that occupied him until the end of his life. In Haifa, he oversaw the construction of the superstructure for the Shrine of the Bab on Mount Carmel, which, with its golden dome, became known as the Queen of Carmel. He also laid out magnificent gardens around both shrines and acquired, restored, and beautified many other sites associated with Baha'i history, including the surroundings of the resting places of the sister, brother, mother, and wife of Abdu'l-Baha, to establish facilities for the World Administrative Center of the Faith on Mount Carmel. Shoghi Effendi mapped out an arc on the mountainside around which buildings housing the international institutions of the Baha'i Faith would be situated. The first of these, the International Archives building, was completed shortly before his passing. Crisis and victories. Throughout Shoghi Effendi's ministry, he guided the Baha'i community through numerous challenges. The German Baha'is were persecuted under Nazi rule. A number of Baha'is were arrested and interrogated in Turkey. The highly developed community in Ashgabat, following sustained persecution by Soviet authorities in the 1920s and 1930s, was dispersed. Further opposition to the faith broke out in Iran, and the house of Baha'u'llah in Baghdad was seized and could not be regained. With characteristic calm and perception, Shoghi Effendi saw the potential for triumph in every apparent crisis facing the Baha'is. For example, in Egypt, the courts delivered a series of judgments which, while on the surface appeared to be adverse, were hailed by Shoghi Effendi as recognition of the independent nature of the Baha'i faith. While assisting the community to take action in national courts and on the international stage to defend their basic human rights, he also taught them to see difficulties as opportunities to carry forward the work of the faith. The passing of Shoghi Effendi. Despite carrying the enormous burden of duties and responsibilities, the Guardian devoted whatever time he could spare to greeting pilgrims visiting the Holy Land from both east and west. He met with them, encouraged and advised them, and shared news of the progress of the community worldwide. In November 1957, while he was visiting London for the purpose of purchasing furniture and ornaments for the buildings and gardens of the Baha'i World Center, Shoghi Effendi passed away suddenly at the age of 60. The Baha'is of the world were left in a state of profound grief. His final resting place is in the New Southgate Cemetery in North London. Today, it is a place of prayer and reflection for visitors from all over the world.